Enough said, bub. Enough said, bub. Friendly neighborhood Spider-Man here.
Higher, further, faster, baby.
Victory!
Hey everyone, it's Alex. We're talking about the top 10 best decks in Marvel Snap with a couple hidden gems mixed in as well. Let's get started. The first deck we have to talk about is Boosted Brew. Now, this is after the Doctor Doom buff patch and after the Legion nerf patch, but this deck has still remained consistent at a 59% win rate, which honestly surprised me. I was expecting the nerf to Legion, bringing it down to a 5-7, was going to have more of an impact. Some players were experimenting with swapping Legion out with Doctor Doom, but it just so happens that keeping Legion in there actually increases the win rate ever so slightly. So, one of the best decks in the meta has remained one of the best decks in the meta as we move on to deck number 2. It should come to no surprise to anybody who's been playing any sort of Conquest lately that Shinnot represents one of the best decks in the meta right now and a relatively inexpensive deck to build provided you have high evolutionary. The addition of Leage has been absolutely detrimental to many turn 6 combo centric plays while also protecting the magic limbo location. You have Tech against Destroy in the Cosmo and the Armor, which works wonderfully in the current meta as Destroy tends to occupy a pretty large percentage despite not actually having that great a win rate overall compared to some of these decks. Right? But ultimately, Shinnot still is a very solid deck that you can turn to if you're looking to score some infinity tickets. This is, without question, one of the most slept on decks in Marvel Snap. It's Shuri, Sauron, and Vision. Now, Vision was recently upgraded from a 5/7 to a 5/8, and it's slotting perfectly in this deck in conjunction with Shuri if you don't have your Red Skull, Typhoid Mary, or of course, if you weren't able to play your Sauron, which is a key snap condition. I love the idea of being able to play Taskmaster and Ebony Maw on turn 6, provided, of course, that Ebony Maw has been Sauron, and Enchantress works wonderfully with the Lizard to get rid of the Lizard base effect in the event you play it on turn 2 in advance of the Sauron. You can cover it up with that sweet old Enchantress. But obviously Shuri is the main piloting point here. Shuri into Vision's fantastic. Shuri into Red Skull Taskmaster's fantastic. There's so many winning lines with this deck. It's pretty straightforward to play, and it's going to get you cubes when you need it most. Over the last couple of weeks, the Silken move-based decks have been incredibly popular, and they got hit pretty hard with these nerfs. While it did lose a couple points of percentage win rate because of the nerfs to Captain Marvel and Legion, it still represents a pretty good choice in the meta. Unfortunately, you do have a little bit of unreliability based on how the deck actually kind of plays out, because sometimes your Kraven can get absolutely massive, but it's this Silk that kind of bounces around. Sometimes you get these miraculous wins, and other times you get these miraculously sad losses, right, based on where the cards land. But ultimately, Captain Marvel's nerf does hit this deck pretty hard. It does still take into account the Kraven buff, so you can almost see it as a 4/6, but man, losing that point does feel pretty bad. Ultimately, the deck still performs. It does feel weaker than it did before, so you might not win that 1 or 2 games that you really want to get to that next level, but ultimately, it's still a strong deck, and if you enjoy the playstyle, it's a hell of a fun time to play. This is one of my favorite decks that uses the newly buffed Doctor Doom, and it comes from the co-host of the Snapchat podcast. It's Cozy Snap, and I love this deck because it does a couple things really well. First of all, it still abuses the absolutely broken Absorbing Man Patriot Brood combo with Mr. Sinister. This package is absolutely insane, but most importantly, I love the addition of Wave, because Wave allows you to play Wave on like turn 5 or 6 against a Shinnot deck, which is extremely popular right now, and then play Doctor Doom, and they just simply can't attack all the locations, right? So I love what this deck does from a power perspective. I think that this deck is a pretty damn good one. It's a 56% win rate, which is fantastic. It's only a day or two old. So as people get more familiar with the gameplay style and start using Wave as like an offensive and defensive weapon, I think the win rate will actually increase because it is honestly a solid deck. And here's our first hidden deck of the week, and it's Toxic Evolutionary, one of my favorite decks in Marvel Snap right now. It's one of the highest win rate decks in Marvel Snap, nearly 60% if I round it ever so slightly up, and it's not seeing as much play as I think it deserves. I think people get scared off by the Hazmat combo. Hazmat just simply allows you to get out this Abomination nice and early and potentially for free, allowing you to play something like a Wasp Abomination and a Hulk on turn 6, which is crazy. It has this like Shinnot style play without having to skip a turn 6 if you play the Hazmat. That's what makes it so powerful. You have the Cyclops ticking people away. And one thing that's interesting about this deck is the tech card of a Rogue. Now Rogue increases the win rate of this deck by 3% based off of the statistics that I was able to acquire. And what's interesting about this is if you take Rogue out and you add Storm, it's still a good deck. But in the current meta with Patriot running wild and some other ongoing abilities, Rogue is actually doing some work here, which is really damn cool. This is a deck that's being slept on, and it's one that you can take to infinite. Alright, so I know there's people out there that get tilted when I talk about Galactus. It's a very polarizing card, but this is a really creative list that I really like with a 54% win rate. It's not shattering the meta, but it's a really unique take on Galactus. I believe it's a Regis deck, which is fantastic. I love Regis. And anyways, basically what you've got here is you've got a Galactus with a backup Orca play. I love it. You got the Orca, for those that have never even looked at this card, +5 power if it's the only card there. I love it because you can either Galactus them, and they're like, oh, well, I died to that. Or you Orca them, and they just weren't expecting the Orca. I love the design of this deck. You have the Hobgoblin, obviously Galactus combination. You have the Orca finisher as well. You got Jeff for the Professor X play with the Daredevil. It's a really fun deck to pilot. I've been enjoying this here. So if you're looking for a new take on Galactus, I think this is the one. From a macro perspective, Destroy is one of the most popular archetypes in Marvel Snap, and it performs well at a 56% win rate. So you might be asking, Alex, why is it a 56% win rate and being so popular? Well, it's because it's fun to play with the Deadpool, the Forge, the Hulkbuster, the Null, the Taskmaster. It has all the pieces you need, Venom being one of the absolute best cards in the game, in my opinion anyways. But what holds it back from a win rate perspective is the prevalence of She-Not. It has this rock, paper, scissors kind of effect because what you have here is She-Not has armor, it has Cosmo, and it works wonders to destroy this deck, right? So it's a little more polarized from a matchup perspective, but it's still a deck you can turn to on aggregate to get you to infinite. We've got ourselves the second hidden gem of the weekend. This is Value Patriot. I know there's a lot of new players out there. You guys are fighting through your collections, and if you unlock Patriot relatively early, this deck is honestly super cheap. There's not really that much to it. You pretty much have all these cards, right? You might not have Ultron. You definitely do have Onslaught, Blue Mark.
It's clobbering time!
Oh.
It's clobbering time!
neighborhood Spider-Man here.
Opponent snapped. Escaped. Victory.
I won without playing a single card.